Let's talk about the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing, as these will be two things that will be very useful to you in your own reading and writing. At lumenlearning.com, they provide some strategies. The first is to take whatever you're reading and read it straight through, without any kind of edits or annotations or highlights. Pay attention to all of the different topic sentences and key words that continue to be repeated throughout the piece. This should key you in to what you need to include in your summary. Another strategy that you might use to write a summary is to go through the original piece and cross out any non-vital information, leaving things like the topic sentences and keywords intact. Therefore, you can go back and look at them and piece it together. Then you can go and begin writing your summary in your own words. Now, with that being said, you want to keep in mind that when writing a summary, you want to keep your personal opinion out of it. Also, a good rule of thumb when summarizing a text is that it should be about 15 to 20% the size of whatever the original document being summarized is. Now, let's jump over to the Allen and Bacon Guide to Writing 7th edition to talk about paraphrasing. They're going to say that unlike a summary, which condenses an entire work, a paraphrase is translating a short passage from a work into the writer's own words. When I teach the difference between summary and paraphrasing, I like to look at it like this. A paraphrase is 1 or 2 sentences max, where a summary is a short paragraph. My personal strategy is to take an article or a text and look at every individual paragraph, create a paraphrase of that paragraph. Then, afterwards, I can look back at all of my paraphrases and piece them together to create a summary. Here, I'll show you an example. I've taken this article on carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and created paraphrases of each individual paragraph. For example, it says, levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere reached their annual peak last month and once again were the highest in human history. Now, in and of itself, that is only one sentence. But one of the more important points about paraphrasing is to avoid patch writing. Patch writing is when a writer takes somebody's original work and just changes a word or two and then claims that it is their own work. This, of course, is considered plagiarism, and you want to avoid patch writing. So when creating your own paraphrase, even if it's of one sentence, this is the example that I created. Remember, the original text says levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere reached their annual peak last month, and once again were the highest in human history. I paraphrased that and said, May is normally the peak month for carbon dioxide level. Moving on to the next paragraph, I'll show you how I paraphrase something a little longer. This paragraph says, despite the economic collapse resulting from the coronavirus pandemic, which has led to sharp declines in carbon dioxide emissions, the amount of greenhouse gas has continued to climb. The May monthly average was 417.2 parts per million, according to scientists at Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the University of California, San Diego. Now, I took that whole paragraph and I wanted to create a one-sentence paraphrase of it. This is what I said. Because of COVID-19, carbon dioxide levels were down in 2020, but greenhouse gases continue to rise. Throughout the whole article, I continued to paraphrase every single paragraph in here, and then at the end, you can simply go back to each paraphrase, copy-paste them in order to create a summary. This is where you're going to see the first two examples I provided of paraphrase put together with all my other paraphrases to create a summary. For example, May is normally the peak month for carbon dioxide levels. Because of COVID-19, carbon dioxide levels were down in 2020, but greenhouse gases continued to rise. This was also confirmed by the NOAA in their measurements. The NOAA measurements showed that greenhouse gases were up by 0.5% compared to 2019. Human-produced carbon dioxide levels were down nearly 8% though. The rise in greenhouse gases is natural, however, as vegetation growth when seasons change reflect. People may be expecting a larger impact to carbon dioxide levels than we are seeing. Although the pandemic has slowed human-made emissions, it will take time to see the actual results. After the May peak of natural greenhouse gas production from vegetation, that same vegetation will begin to remove greenhouse gases through photosynthesis. Each sentence in this summary matches up with one paragraph from the article beforehand. You may need to go back in and add some transition words, doctor it up a little bit, but you have a foundation for a good summary from just adding your paraphrases together. Hopefully, this allowed you to see the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing, but how they can work together to create a piece of writing. We'll catch you next time.